What if I told you there was a chapter torn from the pages of history? A chapter so raw, so dangerous, that it never made it into the official manuscript of the prince. Welcome to Machiavelli's lost chapter, the brutal truth about human nature. Niccolo Machiavelli is often misunderstood. A politician, yes. A diplomat, sure. But above all, he was a surgeon of the human soul. He did not care for how things ought to be. He dealt in how things are. And if you listen closely, you might just realize that he saw the truth of you, me, everyone, long before we were born. Let's begin. Imagine Florence, 1513. A man disgraced, tortured, exiled, alone. That man, Machiavelli, sits in the flickering candlelight, his pen cutting through parchment like a knife through flesh. He writes not for glory, not for fame. He writes because he sees something, a pattern, a darkness. Not just in kings, not only in tyrants, but in you. Human nature, he says, is constant, predictable, and above all, cruel. He wrote The Prince not as a guide for saints, but as a weapon for survivors. And while we remember the book, what we don't remember is what he chose not to include, or what perhaps was taken. There are whispers among historians, a missing section, a chapter too bold for publication. Some say it was destroyed, others say it was hidden. But today, we are going to reconstruct it, line by brutal line. This is not the Machiavelli taught in schools. This is the Machiavelli who believed in masks, in deception, in manipulation as necessity, and above all, in the myth of morality. He wrote, "Men are driven by two forces, fear and hunger. If you cannot feed them, you must make them afraid." This was not metaphor. This was the anatomy of control. He believed that humans are not naturally loyal, that love is fleeting but fear is reliable. Think about your own life. Who has more power over you? The one you love or the one you fear? And when society collapses, as it always does eventually, who thrives? Not the kind, not the good, but those who see the world for what it is. In the lost chapter, Machiavelli wrote of masks. Not the literal ones, but the masks we all wear. Social masks, moral masks, masks of virtue. He believed every man is an actor, that behind every smile is a strategy. Do not trust appearances. The pious man will slit your throat if he thinks God isn't looking. Harsh? Yes, true. You tell me. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever felt used, if you've ever seen someone rise not because they were good, but because they were ruthless, then you already know the lost chapter. You've lived it. So why did he hide it? Because truth is dangerous. Because when you tell men what they are, they tend to prove you right. Machiavelli saw that the strongest leaders were not the most just, but the most adaptive. That a good leader must be like a fox, clever enough to recognize traps, and like a lion, strong enough to scare away wolves. You can't be both, then you will fall. What he meant was this: morality is a luxury of the safe. Think about that. Morality only works when there is order, when there is law. But when the structures collapse, when famine hits, when war erupts, you will not find saints. You will find survivors. He saw it centuries ago, that the human soul is not a temple, it is a battlefield. That kindness is a strategy, not a virtue. That the world rewards those who dare to see beneath the veil. He wasn't teaching evil. He was teaching realism. And here's the brutal truth. The reason this chapter was lost is because it showed us to ourselves. Naked, unforgiven, unredeemed. But you're still watching. That means something. It means you're curious, or maybe you already knew. So let me ask you. When the system falls, when the lights go out, when the old gods die and the new kings rise, who will you become? If this truth speaks to you, If it echoes something you've always felt but were never allowed to say, then stay. There is more. Subscribe, like, share this truth, but more importantly, watch what happens next. Because the next chapter, it gets darker. Virtue is the mask of the powerful. You see, Machiavelli didn't despise humanity. He simply refused to romanticize it. He believed in preparing for the worst because the worst is always just beneath the surface. He saw kindness as a tactic, not an ideal. He saw order as a thin shell over chaos. And he knew that when that shell cracked, what would pour out would not be compassion, but blood. The lost chapter continues with a list, not of virtues, but of tools. Fear, doubt, secrecy, leverage, timing. He wrote, "A ruler must know when to break his word, when to lie, when to betray, and more importantly, he must know how to do so without remorse." Does that disturb you, or does it liberate you? Because maybe, just maybe, you've played by the rules all your life, only to be outpaced by those who didn't. Maybe you've been taught to be kind, while others were taught to be clever. Machiavelli would tell you, adapt or perish. Still think goodness guarantees survival? Ask yourself, who are the leaders of today, saints or tacticians? He warned us, never appear too perfect. Envy is a weapon wielded in silence. The ones who fall are not always the wicked. Often they are the ones too proud, too visible, too naive. The world punishes those who shine too brightly without shielding their flame. The ones who survive are those who know when to speak and when to vanish. You were taught to be honest, but honesty, Machiavelli said, is a currency that loses value quickly. He wrote, "The truth in the hands of a fool is more dangerous than a lie in the hands of a master." So he taught concealment, misdirection. He taught that power is not just in action, but in perception. That reality is negotiable. If that frightens you, good, it should. But if it excites you, then perhaps you are ready to hear what comes next. Because in the final lines of the lost chapter, Machiavelli didn't offer comfort. He offered a mirror. "If you gaze into the abyss," he wrote, "make sure you are ready to see yourself looking back." So now the question returns. Who are you really? Not who you pretend to be, not who society tells you to be, but beneath the mask, when the lights are out and no one is watching. Do you seek power? Do you crave control? Do you fear being powerless more than you fear being hated? Then you understand him. Then the lost chapter was written for you. And if it was, then share it. With those who are ready, like it, save it, return to it. Let it guide you not to cruelty, but to clarity. Because darkness isn't always evil. Sometimes it's simply honest. And perhaps that's the most unsettling truth of all, that within each of us lies a ruler waiting to rise, a strategist waiting to strike, not out of malice, but out of necessity. The world isn't waiting for kindness. It's waiting for someone who understands that survival often demands sacrifice. So here's a final whisper from that lost chapter. The man who waits for justice will be ruled by the man who acts with purpose. Act with purpose or be forgotten. You've come this far, don't look away now. The next revelation is already forming, and it will change everything. Subscribe if you dare to know more, because the truth isn't finished with you yet.